1 Samuel chapter 1. We're going to start verse number 4, and we're going to read, and it's not as much a Mother Day sermon as it is what we need from mothers, but everybody else too. When you've been in the church as long as we've been here, and you've preached Proverbs 31 and Proverbs 31, and Proverbs 31 is one of the greatest passages in the Bible on mothers. 2 Timothy chapter 1 talks about Timothy's mother and grandmother. It's again a wonderful passage. But when you look at Hannah in this text, we get to see a lady that wants to be a mother, desperately so. And she has to contend with some problems till she gets a hold of God. And God gives her the gift, the answer from above. And you notice in verse 4, when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord hath shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her, therefore she wept and did not eat. Then said Elkanah, her husband, to Hannah, Why weepest thou, and why eatest thou, and why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest was upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord in all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thy handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken thereto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the Lord of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the handmaid went her way and did eat. And her countenance was no more sad. And they rose up in the morning early and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come, about after Hannah had received, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, Do what seemeth thee good, tarry until thou hast weaned him. Only the Lord established his word. So the woman abode, and gave her son suck until she weaned him. Now, when you look at this passage, you see that Hannah got a hold of God. And if there's one thing we need, I'm telling you, from the White House to the poorhouse and every house in between, it's some mothers that can get a hold of God. Some mothers that can change children and rear them up to be men and women for God tomorrow. You stop and think what's the missing element in most of our churches When kids get 18, they're gone, and they never come back. Why? Because they're not committed. They went through the form and ritual growing up because you told them to. But when they got 18, we're gone. We're going to do what we want to do. You made us do what you wanted to do. And we did the things you wanted to do, but now it's my time. And I'm going to do what I want to do. But we find in Samuel a different study. We find in Samuel a great man. Why was Samuel so great? Because of Hannah. You remember, we talked a few weeks ago about Moses. And Moses' mother taught Moses until she weaned him and took him to Pharaoh's house. We see the same thing with Samuel. But, did you ever look at Jeremiah chapter 15? I meant to do this at the end, but I know I'll never get to it, so let's do it now. Jeremiah chapter 15, look at verse number 1. Then said the Lord unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people, cast them out of my sight, and let them go forth. Name the two men, Moses and Samuel. Both their mothers weaned them and turned them over, one to Pharaoh's palace, to Pharaoh's daughter, and one to the temple of the Lord. Eli was going to be Samuel's supervisor, if you will. And he had two sons named Hophni and Phinehas, and they were the two most immoral men you've ever seen in your life. They were having sex with women on the steps coming into the temple, or the house of God at that time, not the temple. They had a sanctuary built. They ate the sacrifice that they hooked and brought out before it was even cooked. They did everything they could to violate God. Same man is over Samuel. What made Samuel turn out to be different? Hannah. Hannah served God. Hannah didn't play. Hannah served God. She was determined to get what she needed, and then she was determined to see it through to the end. See, most people think, oh, we got the child, it's here now, I'm done. No. My child's 17, 18 years old, they're not going to listen no more, I'm done. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. No. I'm going to tell you something right now that you that are older than me have already figured out. You never stop rearing them. And I don't say that to be ugly to them. But you've got experience over them, do you not? And we're obligated to pass that down to them. So it doesn't matter if they're 20, 30, 40, or 50 years of age. You still got wisdom you can pass down to them. Understanding. You can still teach and help mold them to be better adults than they are now. I'm not saying that the older we get, we still can't learn something, because we can. But you know what? There's no good in learning something as we get older if we don't pass it down. Let's take what God has given us and let's share it with them. Well, preacher, they're in their 30s now. They're in their 40s now. It doesn't matter. We can still learn every day of our life. People understand that. Hannah, Moses' mom. Two women that only had their sons for a short duration of time. And both of those formed and shaped Israel. Samuel was a bad dude. Samuel got down and got a hold of God. Let me tell you something, buddy. God listened. You stop and you think about that. Hannah was sort of like, if you will, do you remember when Jacob was getting ready to go see Esau? You're going to find determination in Hannah. Jacob made the statement. He said, I'll not let thee go except you bless me. He reached up and grabbed hold of that angel, or Christ pre-incarnate, whatever you want to believe, and grabbed hold of him and was not going to let him go. He said, you got to let me go. It's beginning to be the break of day, and I can't be here any longer. And Jacob grabbed on him harder and held him tighter and said, I'm not letting you go except you bless me. We find this determination in Hannah. Hannah knew how to get a hold of God, but she got a hold of God. Notice verse 5 and 6. Prayers are more intense when you're under fire. You know, they always made the statement, there's not an atheist in a foxhole. When bullets start flying, you start praying. It's who we are. Well, preacher, that don't make any sense. Yeah, it does. When you think you're fixing to get killed, it makes a lot of sense. It's okay, you know, when you're watching it on TV and you see bullets flying back and forth. But when bullets are flying back and forth in your direction, it means something totally different. Notice Hannah gets under fire. Hannah begins to have problems, verse 5 and 6. Hannah's been persecuted in verse 6. Her adversary also provoked her sore. Peninnah could not leave her alone. See, it was a curse back then, a reproach for a woman not to have a child. And Hannah is childless. And Peninnah, let me tell you something about her. The Bible said she had sons and daughters. How many? We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, she had several children. And she could run by and remind Hannah all the time that, guess what? I'm providing the legacy of the family, and you're doing nothing. Can I ask you a question? I know I'm being a smart aleck. Can I ask you a question? Till I read Peninnah's name this morning, did you remember who she was? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Let me ask you a question. She had sons and daughters. What the Bible said? What's their names? How many of y'all knew when I said the name Samuel who I was talking about? How many of y'all knew when I mentioned Hannah, oh, that's Samuel's mother? Yeah. It's amazing what the world says and what God says. You don't understand. I'm providing the legacy of the family, and you're doing nothing but taking away from it. What's those kids' names? Nobody knows. And can I tell you a secret? There you go. Nobody cares. Who do they care about? Samuel. Because he's going to mold Israel. Samuel makes the path for David. Samuel brings God's guidance back to Israel from the immoral plague of Hophni and Phinehas back to the reverent, right serving God we find in the life of Samuel. Peninnah, don't know, don't care. I want to give you some things about Hannah. Her prayer being intense because Peninnah was there aggravating her, persecuting her. People, don't think you're going to live for God that people in your life won't do the same thing to you. They're going to come by and tell you you're hoping and praying. It's never going to happen. You're hoping and praying for revival in America, that we'd come back and fear God and love this book and come to the house of God to meet God. Well, you're wasting your time. That ain't never going to happen. You're going to have those people. And can I tell you something else as a freebie? You're already here. Peninnah is a perfect example of the devil. Look what I've done to your country. I can control straws in California. Grocery stores not to give you bags.